Hey friends, it is Trucker Ray with an update from Langley, British Columbia. And it's actually snowing out here. I can't really show you guys anything right now because I try to get a GoPro to work with this OBS system that I'm using to record this. And those of you that are familiar with OBS, you'll know how it works. And for whatever reason it is, the GoPro 10 will not work with it. It just keeps shutting off. So I figured I'll just use the camera that's on the laptop, and that will suffice. That will do the job. Yeah, so anyway, sorry about the noise in the background. That's actually my bunk heater. That's how sensitive this microphone is. That's the bunk heater going. It is warming up in here a bit because it's a little chilly out here in Langley. It's actually snowing right now. It's actually quite funny. So my trip up from where did I come from? I came from, well, of course, Yuma. Where else would I be coming from? Excuse me. Made my way up through California and, didn't have to deal with any snow. Actually, the reason why we came up California, normally we'll take the 93 and then we'll go up the 84, the 82, and then up the 90, Snoqualmie Pass. And they were expecting some really bad snow up on Snoqualmie Pass, and sure enough, they got hammered. So our boss told us when we were heading out, one of the bosses anyway, told us, go through California. So there was like a fleet of Key West trucks coming up through California. It's actually quite funny how many Key West trucks and trailers I've seen going up the I-5 through California. And I'll tell you something, your truck puts up with quite a beating when you go up the I-5. It is a real beating. Just the roads are terrible. After getting all those flash floods and just a really bizarre weather, the roads have just taken a toll for the worst. I mean, concrete pieces are coming out, asphalt pieces are coming out. And I can't see Governor Newsom doing anything about that. He probably likes the idea that the roads are like that. That way it'll slow the truckers down. But nothing slows the truckers down. So we made it here. Actually, I made it to Custer Rest Area last night, and I just parked it. I was tired, and I got up fairly early this morning. But this was actually really funny. I get up at like 5 a.m. I'm like, this is the perfect time to cross the border. I'm only 10 minutes away from the border. Nobody will be there. Well, I was wrong. There was a lineup at the border at 5:30 in the morning, and the reason why is because the Canada Customs, was doing a surprise drug check on all the trailers that were coming through, spending at least 5 minutes on each trailer. And that delayed everybody. I sat there in that lineup for 45 minutes and made my way up. I finally got to the wicket, and the customs officer was super nice. He was really nice. And I said, wow, that's quite a wait first thing in the morning. What's going on? And he said, he could have been a jerk and said, none of your business. But he says, oh, yeah, we're checking for drugs. And I'm like, well, no one would expect you to do that this early in the morning. And he goes, well, we like to do them, at times where they don't expect it. And I'm like, oh, okay. And we just got into talking about how bad the fentanyl and how bad the drugs are that's plaguing, our cities out here in Canada. Like Langley, you see a lot of homeless people out here, and they're on this drug, either it's heroin or fentanyl, whatever they're on, which makes them look like a pretzel, and they just stand there, and they're like crept over like that, and they can sit like that for like an hour, and I'm like, I can't even do that. I can just imagine what my abs would feel like. And I did some research on it to try to find out why they do that. It's like the drug freezes them, but it's not freezing them. They're half awake and they're half awake. They're partly in a sleep. So they are almost dozing off because of the drug, but they're still conscious enough to keep themselves balanced and keep themselves awake. It's like going into a sleep and waking up, going into a sleep and waking up. Just a lousy, I don't know why would anybody want to take a drug like that makes you feel like that. How is that a good time? But apparently, it makes you feel really amazing. Apparently. But I'll tell you something right now. Nothing makes you feel better than eating good, eating healthy, staying away from cigarettes and drugs and alcohol. Nothing gives you a better buzz than feeling good about yourself and having, a direction in your life and having God in your life. How important is that, guys, to have God in your life? So anyway, today was a big day for me because I recorded a introductory welcome message for my podcast, because the directory where I'm hosting my podcast, you have to at least put up a file to get everything submitted. I've created the profile and everything, but you needed a file to be able to submit it to Spotify, to Apple iTunes, to all these different platforms. Tune in with Alexa, whatever it is. So if you don't have a file, you can't really submit it. And the process today was a bit lengthy. I spent about 2 hours submitting to all the different platforms, but most of them went through. Some of them are still pending, but we now are officially on Apple iTunes. So if you are interested in listening to the podcast, if you have an iPhone, just find the podcast, the Apple iTunes, or actually it's the Apple Podcast. I don't know if it's Apple iTunes. I think it's just the Apple Podcast app that's on your iPhone. If not, look in your app store, you'll find it. And just open it up. It's got like a little radar thing around it and a little person in the middle. If you click onto that and just search the Trucker Ray podcast, or even search Trucker Ray, you'll see me come up. And then just hit the follow on the top. And every time a new episode is uploaded, you'll get a notification. It's the same thing with Spotify, same thing with any of these other very popular podcast directories. So we're officially on there, guys. So whatever podcast that you're using, whatever podcast, should I say, player that you're using, search the Trucker Ray podcast, and if you see it on there, just hit the follow, and you, like I said, you won't miss any of the episodes that are coming up. If you happen to be using a directory that doesn't have it on there, please let me know what it is, and I'll see what I can about getting it on there. So we're really super excited about that. So I got a 10-minute welcome message, and if you're not into the podcast thing and you still want to hear the podcast and you don't have a phone that's up to date or whatever the case is, if you go to the YouTube channel where you're watching this video, obviously, and you hit on where it has the links, the videos and whatever playlists, you'll see one that says podcast. Click onto that, and then you'll see the podcast in the list, and you can just click onto it and it'll play. You won't see anything going on. You'll just see an image, but you'll hear the actual podcast. And it's just me introducing it and sharing what it's going to sound like. And I'm super excited. Glenn, my buddy there, he listened to it. He says he was so excited about it, it brought a tear to his eye, he said. I was going to say, oh, that's really sweet, Glenn, but I thought, no, that's not something you tell another guy, so I avoided saying that. But that's really, really nice. He's super excited about it. I am too, because it's just going to provide, everybody in the world has got a phone. Everybody's got a phone. Even these really poor countries, everybody's got a phone. So to be able to get this podcast on all of those different podcast platforms is huge. The listenership could be into the thousands, maybe even into the millions. You just never know what God is going to do. So pray for success for that, guys. I'm not going to make anything from it. It's all volunteer. I don't know if there's any way to make money on a podcast. I don't know. Unless there's a sponsor for the podcast. And I will be looking for a sponsor for the podcast, because whoever it's going to be is going to be mentioned 4 times. So if you have a product or a service that you think would benefit those that'll hear the podcast, let me know. Send me an email, truckerray7@gmail.com. Truckerray with the number 7@gmail.com. You just never know who will hear and how it'll benefit not only your product, but those that are listening. So what else is in store for me today? Well, as I watched a little bit of snow come down, they're expecting 10 centimeters, but I don't think we're going to get that much. I got a whole day tomorrow just to relax, and I'm just going to finalize the imaging and finalize stuff, and I may record my next trip out. We'll see what happens. If I feel inspired, I will. But if I don't, then I will, be uploading something else. So there you have it, guys. There is my update. And I apologize for the noisy bunk heater, but it is a little on the chilly side. So blessings in the name of Yeshua. We'll talk to you guys real soon. Bye for now.